Fresh Take is a free flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subject matter. You've been warned. Enjoy the show. To another standing tall Fresh Take review. What it is, what it do. We're here with the talented, the sexy, the dangerous. He hears voices in his head. Stem Seal.
Kind of sounds like Batman.
And your host, Joshua Adam William Arbuthnot. And the review is Birdman. So Birdman stars Michael Keaton, and kind of a redeeming role for him. Some say right now the Oscar is his to lose because of this film. We'll get to that. But just first off, overall impressions on the film.
Kind of weird. It was a weird movie. Had lots of great dark comedy aspects to it. I'd say I'm going to use the word whimsical, especially with the camera.
Solid word.
The way the camera works, the way it was shot, the way it would transition from scene to scene was very flighty. They used a lot of handheld camera, so it's kind of jittery in motion at some point in time. His acting was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Edward Norton was phenomenal. What do you think?
I was blown away. And as someone that's used camera work in the past, like the first thing I told you and the first thing I'll say in this video was transition shots.
Mm-hmm.
It was one solid shot the whole film.
Yeah.
Like, that was unbelievable. That's what grasped me almost more than anything in there. Like, a lot of great visuals and everything like that, but just what they did with the camera work was unbelievable. Like, they're probably going to win cinematography at the Oscars.
I'd very well hope so. It was really cool. That stage seemed to have a life of its own. I kind of thought I connected to it sort of like how you connect to the hotel in The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
You're going through the hallways upstairs, and after partway through the movie, you know where they're going.
Yeah.
And then even one of the scenes that really got me was they on top of the building, and they pan up to darkness, and then 2 seconds later they pan back down, but from the reverse side of the building, so you saw the front of it. And I just thought, how do you do that?
And then there was also a really cool shot with Michael Keaton in the mirror and Naomi Watts kind of talking to him, and just a really great visual in that. It kind of felt just like a whole movie, just a POV.
Yes, it felt like you were a character there, whether it be an assistant or some kind of stagehand that was watching this first time.
At time, I pondered watching the film if the voices that's talking to him, maybe they're going to be a switch around and it's you. I thought that would be a real mind F if they did that, but obviously they didn't. They went a different direction with that. But I kind of thought with all the transitions they're going, and maybe they kind of turn the story around and they get you talking to him in a way, kind of weird thing, but didn't do that. But still, I was just blown away. Michael Keaton was just phenomenal. I can't remember the last movie I saw him in. I think it was some Larry David throwaway film on HBO.
Absolutely.
And after before that, I really can't remember what I said. Maybe Jack Frost, that was filmed right here in Calgary, Alberta.
Alberta, Canada.
It kind of destroyed his career, you would almost say.
Precisely.
Yeah.
This is a comeback role, much like what we talked about with John Wick being a comeback role for Keanu Reeves. This seems like is this a comeback role for Michael Keaton? Is this like a swan song?
I mean, we kind of put parallels when we talked about this on the ride home to Mickey Rourke with The Wrestler. He got a big role in Iron Man, and then he did something in Expendables, and kind of hasn't done much since then.
But still respected.
But still respected again now. And with Michael Keaton, it was eerie too, the parallels between Birdman and the Batman films, even with the 92 reference.
Which was very, very, very intentional.
Yeah.
Of course it was. Even Birdman looked like Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was...
the voice, even.
This movie, I would say, is a reflection on Michael Keaton's life.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it brought up another point that we talked about the other day, was that this movie reminded me a lot of the movie JCVD, starring JeanClaude Van Damme, because that's a kind of a movie where he's an actor playing in a movie in real life, and it kind of reflects on his career, the decisions he's made, the mistakes he's made, and then how that movie took him from being a former A-list, now B or C-list movie actor to a respected artist of his craft, where he delivers this long monologue in terms of where the set disappears, and now he's just talking to you on screen about how it's not as easy as you think it is. And it's hard going from up here to here to here And now, Jean-Claude Van Damme's kind of had an interesting ride the past few years, but similar with Michael Keaton, like, you just kind of felt for him. You kind of looked past the Birdman thing and thought, well, he's been Batman for 20 years.
And this movie had a lot of parallels of Hollywood and stardom. There was a story in there where he talked about being on a plane with George Clooney, and saying if the plane crashed, everyone would just talk about mainly Clooney dying, and no one would think about him. That's all he could think about. He couldn't be thinking about, if I die, my daughter's going to miss me, and my loved ones are going to miss me. He just thought, I'm not going to be the most important person that died in this flight. And then kind of with the whole social media vibe that we had on it as well, with the scene in there, it was, relevance was a big idea, and how in Hollywood some just crave that star attention. Like, the relevancy is everything.
Do you think him as a character, do you think he wanted to be a star, or do you think he just wanted to be respected? What do you think he was going for?
I think he just wanted to be recognized again.
Yeah.
He wanted to be recognized, I think, more than Birdman too, but maybe at the same time he had a regret where it was, because we had that flashback and constant callbacks to the rise of Marvel with Iron Man and with the Avengers. Yeah. They talked about Robert Downey Jr., and they talked about Jeremy Renner, and there's even that one scene at the end of the film where there's dancing on the stage, and you see Iron Man, you see Spider-Man, you see Transformers, and you're kind of talking about those globalized comic characters and pop culture characters that are coming to a global force now and dominating the box office, where maybe when he was doing Birdman in the 90s, kind of like how Batman was, superhero genre wasn't a big push, and now you do the Avengers and look at Robert Downey Jr. is getting for a payday.
They brought up this point in the movie a few times. They also brought up how these people aren't actors; they're celebrities, and by being an actor, you have to go back to your roots, and you really want to hone your craft and master it and really be an artist. Being an actor isn't something you do for fun, I guess, or for recognition. You do it because you love what you do, and you saw that in a reflection with Edward Norton. Edward Norton being the kind of character that was he was a dick. He was mean. At the same time, what he said was kind of true. He was kind of what we were all thinking, but didn't really want to say because we didn't want to crush Michael Keaton's dreams. And I think everyone, except for Edward Norton, was doing that to him.
And it was really cool, too, with Edward Norton and Michael Keaton, how they had these parallels of the theater life and the movie star life, where Edward Norton had a line saying, I don't know who I am away from the stage. On stage, I know who I am. That's when I'm a normal person. And he had some intimacy errors in his life that he couldn't figure out, but when he was on stage, he had them. And even going to when Michael Keaton talked to a critic, and she had no respect for him because he wasn't a theater actor. He was a Hollywood celebrity star, and she had no respect for him, killing her art of the theater.
Exactly. Excellent point.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to think about it for the longest time. Yeah. Even during it, it was hard to really place. It was kind of the movie that I went for the ride. I didn't really know where we were going.
It's kind of what Fox Spotlight does. They kind of give you these kind of films, and I mean, again, we use this word in the John Wick review. I just use the word refreshing. After being battered down with so many original ideas, it was such an original idea.
It was an original idea.
It took a risk too, and I think it paid off. And now it comes down to, is it Michael Keaton's Oscar to lose? We still haven't seen a lot of other films that came out. Obviously, Foxcatcher has a lot of big candidates in there. Intimidation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch, he's going to be a nomination. And I'm sure there's some film that people are yelling at me that I'm not even thinking about. Obviously, McConaughey's probably going to get something for Interstellar.
Yep.
But it seems right now the buzz is that it's his to lose.
I would say the movies I've seen thus far this year, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that being said, Foxcatcher, Steve Carell, but we don't know in the capacity. Steve Carell may be a supporting character, maybe a main character. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what the fuck, because they have such a big staff in there. We'll get to that when we get to Foxcatcher.
Yeah, when we see it the next couple of weeks, I think it came out on the 14th, but I haven't seen it in Calgary yet. Yeah. We'll see it though. But
so, what's your review?
I think, it's really hard to decide what kind of movie I thought it was. There was some points I laughed, some points I felt really emotionally moved. Other points where I kind of felt like an observer. it was the kind of movie where it wasn't really for entertainment. It was just it was a reflection of something. It was someone pouring their heart out onto the screen. I think I'd have to give it probably a 7.9.
Yeah.
I don't hate it by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't. I walked out of the theater, and you know, a few days later, I'm still not really sure what to think of it. But I appreciated it for what it was.
I'm gonna give it a 9.5. It just really impressed me, and I think having wielded a camera so much, being a news guy, and obviously I can't be as artistic as I'd like that you would be with the camera, but you kind of work on shots for B-roll and whatnot. That really generated to me what they were doing with the camera, and just the raw emotion of all the characters and everything like that. Really, really like. My only critique of it was the end. It kind of seemed like it could have ended like 4 or 5 different times. Like, this is the end. No, this is the end. No, this is the end. No, this is the end. That kind of seemed...
It kind of, I think it lost some...
In that very last scene, there was, I think, a right moment to end it. And it kind of seemed they didn't know... They kind of seemed like they went in the writer's room like, oh, but we can extend it, we can extend it, we can extend it. And it's like, you maybe need to end right here.
There was 2 things I wasn't really in love with. One of which was Emma Stone.
Yeah.
I didn't really like her... I don't know if it was her acting or if it was her character. I think the character was fine. I think her acting, just coming off as a smartass the whole time, made her seem very one-dimensional.
She seems more like a sweetheart most of the time, too. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
And she didn't pull enough of a job to become that.
I thought maybe like an Olsen would have been really good for this role.
Yeah, maybe like Elizabeth Olsen?
Yeah, someone who has like kind of, can do like the dark eyes and that kind of vacant stare. And then the other thing I wasn't really terribly fond of were the powers. I liked them, but I didn't know. We were never really given
an origin. Yeah.
Well, were they real?
Yeah.
Or were they imaginary?
Yeah, that's one thing I guess you could definitely.
The ending, he takes a dive out of the window. Yeah. And does that mean he died, or did he start flying away?
Yeah.
That's what I wasn't really. I mean, I guess it's left ambiguous depending on if you thought the powers were real, if they thought you were in his mind. Because there's a few times
there's some schizophrenia going on with him.
Yeah, there's a few times like where I guess maybe 2/3 way through the movie where it actually jumps off the building,
flies,
and so he's
in a taxi the whole time.
Yeah, I kind of thought, is this like a dream? Is this officially a dream where he's dead now, or does this actually happen? And he's like this meta-human mutant kind of thing. Yeah. And I would have liked some direction on that, even if they just even if it was like they leaned in one direction to it, and didn't give us the answer, but we could make it kind of like an Inception, and you make your decision based on how you feel. I felt it was too ambiguous to really enjoy seeing him move things or fly or whatever.
Solid points to finish off on. All right, so that's our review for Birdman. Make sure you go check us out on our social medias at Facebook at Fresh Take Network, on Twitter and Instagram at Fresh Take 42. We also have a Tumblr, Fresh Take 42. If you want to contact us the old school way, you can contact us on email.
With mail? With real mail?
With mail.
Snail mail.
Oh, I'd love some snail mail.
That'd be awesome.
Or carrier pigeon. We need a carrier pigeon. Damn it. But our email is freshtake42 at gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at Jawa31.
Mine's way too confusing. Mine's locked anyways.
His is so confusing. So until next time, cheers.
Oh man, I don't know what to think about Birdman. Something about Birdman.
Enjoy the day, people.